Hello, everyone. My name's Joe Leun. I want to introduce Mike Placter. I've known him for a while now. He's done a lot for me in my real estate career. Mike actually is the one who recommended East Coast RIA to me, which I owe a lot to. It's a great group of like-minded people getting things done in real estate, and I wanted to bring Mike on. Mike, you're our first guest. I'm pretty excited to have you on. You and I, like we were saying offline, we talk about real estate and just stuff for hours, a little too much. We got off the phone, I think like 1:30 in the morning the other day. Um, True story. Um, so Mike, I appreciate you coming on.
Dude, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that you're doing this podcast. I didn't know, like what where you were when we first met to where you are today is two different people. Just watching you grow has been tremendous, and I'm just glad I'm the first guest. I think that's awesome. The pressure's definitely on. I gotta deliver.
Yeah, well, Mike, I think you're gonna deliver here. You presented the other day at the group, obviously. So again, for those who don't know, East Coast RIA, where we kind of meet. Mike, what is it? 2 times a month?
Yeah, twice a month.
Okay. Yeah. So 2 times a month, and Mike, you were just on. You had your presentation on a recent flip. Um, and you kind of went over how that deal went and how it was structured and everything. But before we dive too deep into that, I want to start in the beginning, right? Your, the main reason I started this podcast is I want to speak to people who are on the path, people who are on a journey of accomplishing their goals, getting whatever they want done, right? I don't really care what the goals are, but I think it's fascinating when people are accomplishing whatever they want to do one day at a time. And so, Mike, um, when did it all? I know you've been in real estate now for a few years, but when did it all? Not so much real estate. When did it all start for you, where you're like, all right, I need to go on a path to really improve myself, and uh, I guess you know what I'm trying to say. When did you
Yeah.
really start focusing
Well,
on improving yourself?
I mean, dude, it goes back years and years. Like, you
Okay.
know, um, I was talking a little bit about this on the presentation last week. You know, like when I was in accounting, I'm an accountant. And we can see I'm a CPA. Um, and when I first started out in accounting, like over 10 years ago, I noticed that a lot of my clients, I was doing a lot of their 1040s, their tax returns, they all had real estate investments.
Yeah.
They all either started out in real estate or they bought into some kind of real estate investment after they were successful in some other kind of business venture. But like they all had the one thing in common. And I always knew I wanted to be, have money, and I always desired that. And I knew like if I just looked into what this real estate thing is, I could definitely, get to where I want to go. Um,
Hmm.
and and at the time, honestly, I didn't even know you can make money in real estate. Like when I was in college and high school, you just don't think about that things.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's so many YouTube videos that like kids are. I'm talking to college kids in our group, and they're like talking about wholesaling deals, and I'm like, dude, I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
I was just, drinking beers like that. That's all I
Yeah.
thought about.
Yeah.
But anyway, like getting back into it, like 10 years ago, I wanted to get into real estate. I always
Okay.
wanted to. I was reading books, Rich Dad Poor Dad, um, or YouTube videos and all kinds of stuff just to kind of educate myself and get aware like of how to do it. Spent years just like not taking action but learning,
Yeah.
Um, like I always wanted, oh, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. I just need this to line up, I need that to line up, and I just never just procrastinating and never really doing
Okay.
anything. I went to East Coast RIA, or before that, I met Ralph Rivera in our group. I
Okay.
met him through my wife's uncle, and we had dinner one night, and he told me about East Coast RIA, which is the
Hmm.
group that we're part of. He's like, hey, come down, meet Carl Cervone, just join the group. You're gonna meet great people. It's a great group, and I did
Hmm.
for like about a year. This is 2019, and the pandemic hit, right?
Hmm.
And that's when I would say like things just kind of like snapped for me, like something just kind of was like, oh, I guess my daughter was born like right before it, right?
Okay.
So that culmination of that with, hey, we're working from home now.
Yeah.
There's no like boss like over my shoulder, like
Yeah.
checking in on, whatever. And what do you call it? So I mean, I really just like made an internal decision. Like it's either do it or just don't talk about it anymore because you're
Yeah.
just kind of wasting people's breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of when I made a decision internally to let's do this thing. Let's take this seriously and just give it all you got.
Okay.
And that's what I did, man. And the path kind of led me to Carl because I was kind of doing things on the side, and it wasn't really working, but not really doing it long enough, I guess. And then I just started coaching with Carl, like right in the beginning, like right in 2020.
Now, now, Mike, so one thing I want to point out there is you said you were really just getting a lot of education there and kind of just like you wanted to do this for a long time. Um, but then eventually you met Ralph and he brought you to East Coast. Um, Now, did you have people around you who were doing what you wanted to do, or was that the first time you really started entrenching yourself in that environment with those people?
Yeah, no, I didn't know anyone that really like
Okay.
did real estate stuff. Like my mom worked as in title, like she worked for a title company. So she has like a ton of experience in that realm. But I didn't know like anyone in the investing side. I didn't know anyone that was like a real estate agent or at least like a
Okay.
serious one.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know anyone. I kind of got in this just like meeting. I met everyone from scratch, like everyone I know in this business. I pretty much met from scratch. I would say, yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got into
Okay.
it.
So it's safe to say that meeting those people, surrounding yourself with all those people who were doing what you wanted to do, that was a catalyst for you, right?
Yeah, because it was like I would talk, like so my wife's uncle is best friends with Ralph Rivera, right?
Okay.
So like I didn't know anyone that was an investor, but he would always tell me like, yeah, I give some money to Ralph and I lend it to him, because he makes a good percentage and all that stuff. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I gotta meet this guy Ralph. He seems
Yeah.
like, guy knows what he's doing. He's flipping houses and stuff. He's buying rentals. And then we had that dinner and he was very helpful. And then, like I said, he got me connected with East Coast RIA, and I just met a bunch of great people in that group, like
Yeah.
like-minded. That's the thing, like-minded people. I
Yeah.
can have conversations with you because we're like-minded. I could talk to you for hours about like the most boring thing, like real estate. But people on the street, you can't really talk someone's ear off about real estate, the way we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, and I think that is extremely important. And you know, y- that I think was big for me as well. And I think that's something that I try and stress to people when they ask me, like, "Oh, I want to get started." Um, I say you need to surround yourself with people who are already doing it. Like when you're trying to do this thing by yourself, I truly feel this, that if you're trying to accomplish something by yourself, you're building up walls around you and you make it way harder than it needs to be. When you
Yeah,
can just call the guy on the phone who's done the thing 100 times over and he just simplifies it, or they're going through
yeah.
similar struggles and you guys could be sounding boards for each other, right? Um,
I Yeah, I totally think you should join a RIA.
okay.
And you would always hear on Bigger Pockets, like, when I was in that phase, before I really started, like, oh, I want to do this. I was always hearing people say, join local RIA, join a local RIA. Like, all right,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't want to just probably some kind of like sales pitch or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be part of that. Like, and then when Ralph told me about it, obviously went. And then when I first started coaching with Carl, I would spend that first year literally just in those rooms, in those breakout rooms till midnight,
Yeah.
just listening to guys that are doing it,
Yeah.
like Ralph, and I would listen to guys like Robert Holman, like these guys are doing deals, like they're very
Yeah.
experienced guys, and I would just ask them questions, and I would just sit
Hmm.
there like a fly on the wall, just like listen to them, and I'd ask them questions about this and that and the other thing. I learned a ton. I learned a ton
Yeah.
because you can read all the books you want, but no one's going to tell you how bad of a township Brookhaven Township is, and that's where we're trying to invest in, right? So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like you learn these things just by talking to people, and that's why in the beginning it's so important to grow your network and just
Yeah.
meet different investors, everyone, real estate agents, expediters, attorneys. whoever. Like, just go out and meet people and talk to them and be interested in what they're talking about. Don't just be like, just you got to be interested in the conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing too, is like actually, when I was going through business school, people always talk about networking. And networking, at least in my eyes, is like, shaking someone's hand, being super stiff with them, sticking to being super professional. Um, but a buddy of mine told me a few years ago, um, ultimately networking, all it is just making friends. Like, and
Yeah,
he's just like, right now, you know, you don't have a lot of friends who are in real estate. Um, but you want to make friends in real estate, right? You want to make friends with people who are interested in the things you're interested in. So whether it's real
yeah,
estate, the medical profession, it could, whatever it is. Um, and that made so much sense to me because, like you said, Mike, like I will call you and I'm thinking it's going to be a 20-minute call that ends up turning into an hour and a half. And
yeah.
that's great. Um, and it
I
doesn't have to be super professional. We bullshit half the time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like networking, when I first started out or forever, I just thought networking was going to networking events
Yeah.
and like meeting people, strangers, and like something, whatever, like something would just
Showing
happen.
your
Like,
business card, like,
yeah, like giving out business card, like that something would just happen from that. And like that is not what networking is. Like
yeah,
literally, I would go to those RIA meetings and I would try to meet people and stuff. And at the time, like I'd go, and I used to hate these in-person ones because, and I still do. You go there, I'm talking to you. Let's say me and you're having a great conversation, and then some, jackass just walks up to you and starts talking to you. Like I'm like, dude, we're in a conversation. You just like cut me off.
yeah,
You don't even care that I'm here, and you just
yeah.
start talking to Joe because you want to get his business card, whatever the reason. I hate
Or
that.
he wants to sell you on something. It's a fucking real
Yeah.
estate agent.
But it's like the biggest pet peeve that I have, and that's why I don't like networking events because of that one reason. But I guess like then it's my responsibility to follow up and things of that
Yeah,
nature. But like, yeah, I didn't know like when I first would go to these things that I should be following up with people, taking them out to
yeah,
lunch, getting coffee, and phone calls, whatever it is. Like that's really what it is. And then I realized social media can be a great tool for networking.
yeah,
And I realized this when I first started the account, like my that flipping account handle.
yeah,
I just was posting and commenting on a lot of people in their industry, like commenting on their like posts and engaging and whatever. And at the first networking event I went to, everyone was just very receptive and like was just like, "Oh, Mike, what's going on, man?" Like
yeah,
as if we were already friends, even though I've never met the person
yeah,
in real life. And that was that clicked for me. I'm like, "Oh, there's something here," because now it's not like that awkward phase where you
yeah.
gotta like meet people and you ask people awkward questions that neither of you care about. You know what I mean? Like once that icebreaker is gone, it's a little different. You have to really meet the person.
Yeah, like you guys already have like sort of like a warm intro already. Um,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so before we go any further, I mean, you brought it up. So that flipping accountant, right? You're a full-time accountant, and you're buying rentals, you're flipping houses, you have uh, two kids, a wife, a whole family. How did you come up with the name that flipping accountant? No, I love that tag.
I don't know. I'm not even like one of those guys that's really good with branding. I got a friend who's like really good with that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
and I'm horrible at it. I'm not creative, but I don't know. It just like clicked in me, like because you heard the term like that effing
yeah,
accountant. Like I hate my accountant, that effing accountant. And then I was like, oh, I'm in real estate. I want
yeah,
to flip houses. Like let's just put that flipping accountant. So it
yeah,
kind of like it means two things. It's like that effing
yeah.
accountant and flipping houses.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Have you thought about making that like your actual like whole brand, or just would you just want to keep it as the Instagram or
I mean, I have like the Instagram and TikTok. I don't use TikTok, but I just so no one else can take it, I guess.
yeah,
That's all I really have it for. Like I have my website where I want to draw leads to, and that's where leads come in. I
yeah,
have separate social medias for each. For like my website has
okay,
a social media across the board. Um, But that's
Oh,
pretty
so
much
like
it.
we buy houses. That's
Yeah,
okay, so that's its own Instagram page. And
that's
then
yeah. I
you
don't post. It's
okay.
just set up so no one can take it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty much like that's the branding for the website, and it helps me with SEO and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Not gonna probably be putting out my content. My content is literally that flipping accountant, but that's probably all I'm gonna take it to. I don't think I'm
Yeah.
gonna. It's really just a brand, and it helps me network
Yeah,
and stuff.
it's catchy. I love it. I know people love it. It's awesome. Um, but I want to kind of move on from that and I want to ask you. So basically, the main goal of this podcast is to interview people who are getting things done, right? People who really doesn't matter what your goals are, but I love seeing someone who marks a point and then no matter what that path looks like, they figure out how to get there. Um, and I think that is fascinating. And so, Mike, like I was saying, you have a full-time job, you have a family, and you're building a portfolio, and it's impressive, right? How how are you doing that? How are you managing that? Talk to me.
I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah,
It's definitely has some moments where it's not. I have to go and do something, and I'm leaving the family. Leaving my
yeah,
kids. Something broke at the rental. I have to go check on it or whatever.
yeah.
I'm trying to get better at it. Like honestly, when I was doing the flip, towards the end, like my dad was kind of helping me a little bit, like going to the property on my behalf,
Okay.
which saves me a trip out there, and because he was available, and he's
Yeah,
retiring in a couple months, so like maybe like I have a lot of help. My parents
yeah,
are very helpful. My wife's very helpful. Obviously, she watches like the kids when I can't.
yeah,
It's not easy, man. It definitely is strain. It can be a strain, but it's just gotta get done. This is like the goal, and it's paying off. And you know, it's one thing if I was doing all this for nothing, but it's definitely paying off so far, and it's only the beginning too. That's the thing that's
yeah,
I'm really excited about is that this is just the beginning.
yeah. So, Mike, your answer there is like, I asked you how. How are you getting it all done? And you answered with the who, right? It's like that book, Who Not How.
Mm.
And you said, my wife is stepping up when I can't. My dad is helping me out. Um, and I think that's pretty important. And that's something even myself, I think I need to focus on is, because like you said, you have a team around you, whether they're all involved in real estate or not, that can kind of help fill the gap when needed. Now, is that something you had to cater? Was that super difficult up front? Because not everyone has that. And, someone would say to that, like, well, my dad's not going to help me out. My wife doesn't give a shit. Is that like
Yeah.
hard conversations that need to be had or talk to me?
No, no, because it's like everyone's path is different. So I can't say you
Yeah.
can't be like, well, Mike did it this way, so I have to do it that way, and therefore, I
Yeah.
can't do it that way because this person can't help me. Whatever. Everyone's got their own path.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the beginning, it wasn't easy. Like my wife, wasn't thrilled,
Yeah.
but she saw the vision and was definitely bought in. My parents were very supportive as well. Like they're supporting me, so it's like I'm very fortunate in that sense. But I mean, it doesn't like someone who doesn't have that or whatever. Um, I only do that because I work full time and I have such a demanding things around me. But
Yeah.
you could find other people to like you could leverage other people. Maybe if you start you're just starting out, you could partner with people. You
Yeah.
could bring value in one area where the other person who's in a similar position maybe brings value in another area. Um, and you do it together in the beginning, just so you can kind of, cut your teeth a little bit.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a bunch of ways you can do this. Um, and maybe you pay someone, but again, if you're just starting out, maybe you don't have the funds to do that. But you find I mean, I could talk to you all day. Like, there's ways you could find people that are just out of college, maybe that
Yeah.
you can get some, free labor from them because they're hungry, right? And they want to do a deal, and you got this, you got all this marketing stuff going on, and maybe you can work out an arrangement for them. They're calling leads for you, or or maybe even like a retired person, maybe you pay them part time, there's ways to get help. You don't just, it's not, this isn't like a one man show for sure.
Yeah. And it's still the answer. I mean, it's who, right? Like it's like you got to find who can help you, right? It's not always let me try and figure this all out by myself, right?
Right. Well, like that's why I coached with Carl too, because like I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I, but it was like the help is what I needed. Like I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out, you might not know what to do. You might not know you should be driving for dollars or cold calling or going to networking events. You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You're just lost. So you kind of needed that guiding hand. And for me, at least, like some guys are very good. They could just figure things out. You give them like a puzzle or some kind of like, something to put together and they can just put it together. I
Yeah.
need
No.
instructions.
Yeah. No, I
So,
hear that, man. So, um, I like that, and I think that's really important. It goes back to people not because I know a lot of people who want to do, say, build a portfolio in real estate or want to build a business, whatever it may be, and they constantly make it seem like this is some super difficult path, right? Yeah, and it's hard, but it becomes a lot easier when you have people you can lean on. Um, People either who have been there before, people who's uh, really have no ulterior motives, right? Like someone like Carl coaching you. He wants to see you grow. He wants to see you succeed.
right.
He'll help you out when you need it. So I definitely think
Well,
that's super important.
it's also like they got to buy the vision too, right? Like you can't just be like asking people for help and they're like, well, what, why? Like you got to really also have like a vision and people are bought into it. Like, you know what? Like he said he'd do this, he did it, and you know what? I saw the results, little steps at a time.
How do you get people to buy that vision? Because I believe that. I think that is especially when you're not paying them, when they're not going to be making on in the profits. How do you get them to buy that vision?
I don't know. I wish I could help you. I
Yeah,
mean, because listen, I'm not like a super persuasive
yeah,
individual, but I don't know. Like I have the passion. I think it's part of the
yeah,
the passion, and people see that. It really excites me, meaning, and people see that excites me, and they buy in. Like, a lot of friends, a lot of family, they were very supportive in the beginning because they saw how excited I was about this, and they knew I knew what I was talking about too. It wasn't just
yeah,
bullshitting people.
yeah.
So I guess passion is part of it. You got to have some kind of passion.
Now, do you think your personality, uh, like prior, had something to do with that, getting your friends and your family and the people around you to actually believe you? Because I'm sure you weren't some jackass, kind of just, that people go, oh, Mike with another stupid thing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, was that your personality? Were people just trusting in you, or talk to me?
Both. I mean, people, know that I'm a CPA. I am like a
Yeah,
trustworthy guy. Definitely don't
yeah,
lie to people. I don't think I've ever like I don't want to say like I've never lied. I'm sure like something stupid, but I
yeah,
think back like I don't think I've ever like really lied to people. I don't lie to
yeah.
people. So maybe people do like trust me and believe in me, and I don't know. I don't know if it's my personality or whatnot. Yeah, it's a good question. I really don't know the answer, but maybe it is my personality, but I mean,
Yeah,
I've definitely changed too. Like this whole real estate thing has definitely got me a little more outgoing. I mean, I'm a
yeah,
CPA, accountant. You don't think of an accountant as like a very outgoing person, and I wasn't for many years.
yeah,
But I've definitely opened up, gotten out of my shell a little bit.
yeah. One thing, at least I see, and I felt when I was just getting started, was my recent history, was extremely important for getting people to buy that vision around me. Um, you know, when I was younger, I really wasn't. If you asked me what I would be like, the people around me would have thought something entirely different. I was a jackass when I was younger. Um, But as I got older, I matured and I kind of started to see a vision and started to take things a lot more seriously, including myself and the people around me. Um, and I think consistently doing what you say you're going to do, and
Yeah.
I think that shows now and it tends to translate to whatever you want to do. So if it's hey, I'm going to start getting healthier and I'm going to start improving myself, well then, the people around you, when they hear you say that, and then you go do some dumb shit, like maybe you're at the bars drinking, or you're eating unhealthy, or not working out. People take that in. People take that in, and then when you try and go build a business, they'll remember that, and they'll be like, "Oh, there's that kid Joe, trying to do some stupid thing again. Like he's just gonna foul. Like I know he's gonna foul." And
Yeah.
once I started understanding that, I started to be way more intentional with how I was behaving, not just when it comes to business, but just my life, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, you always, if you say you're gonna do something, you gotta do it. So
Yeah.
it seems like you were aware of that in your life, at least that, or you're aware of people's reaction to what you would say, right? So now it's
Yeah.
like, put up or shut up, and it looks like, you're definitely doing what you're saying in this business.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a big thing too, is like people tend to not believe you. People tend to not buy into whatever it is you're doing until you actually start doing it, until you actually start succeeding. Um, when it wasn't real, people always call themselves a real estate investor, but it's not really real until you buy your first property, right? And like when I bought my first property,
Yeah,
that shit got real.
that's yeah, 100%, man. Like people say they're real estate investors, and they've really never done a deal. They've
Yeah,
never done one deal. It's like you're not really a real. I mean, that's why I don't like people that could throw around that term like it's like you're a real estate investor. You went to a RIA.
yeah,
It's like no, you're not. You just went to a RIA.
yeah,
So it's like
exactly.
yeah.
Like
So
you
I
got to
think
earn that. And I think as you continue to grow, and like even I see it in myself, I go through seasons, right? And I want to know if you're like this, where I tend to sometimes I'll be little open about what my goals are. Other times I just shut my mouth and I focus on my business, and I don't tell many people about it, and I really just grind because I want people to be like, oh wow, Joe, like look how far he's come, right? Um, as opposed to setting some big, hairy, audacious goal, um, and having people laugh at it, right? And ultimately, that I'll take that in internally. So sometimes I'll just keep to myself.
yeah. No, I mean that's a good point. That's a good point. That's
Do
you
you
though, but I'm similar to that too.
do you? Yeah, I mean, are you open about your goals? Like what are you looking to
Yes
accomplish?
and no. I mean, I don't like publish them. I think I did
Okay.
once. I put out like some posts. I was like, I'm gonna get, 5 deals this year, and I got one. I was like, all right, maybe I'm not gonna post it.
Yeah.
Um, but this year I've told people my goals, like internally, people around me, in our group. I've definitely said stuff. But I haven't like posted anything about, this year I want to get, 5 deals. I already got the three. Just got to get two more by the end of the year.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't like to publish it too much, but because I don't want to like look like an idiot and fail. But you also have to. I also believe that you should be telling people your goals, though. I think that you
Yeah.
shouldn't keep them a secret either. So I'm like 50-50.
Okay. So you're trying to get 5 deals this year, and does it have to be it doesn't matter if it's wholesale, rentals, flips, or doesn't
No, it
matter?
does. So like right up there, my smart goals. You can see it on it right there.
Oh, okay.
Uh, So those are my SMART goals, right?
Yeah.
So, the top line thing really is I want to get 5 deals. Preferably, it's going to be two that are wholesale or flips,
Hmm.
and then three rentals. And the rentals have a certain benchmark. It has to have a certain amount of cash flows per month and a certain amount of equity. I mean,
Okay.
it's got, what I'm saying? Like, I have to have some kind of equity in the deal. Otherwise, I don't do it.
Okay.
Um, and I've
What's
already
what's your
gotten,
threshold?
I want to have at least 50 in equity
Okay.
and cash flows. I think I only put like 600 a month,
Okay.
something like that per like
So
net
you want
cash
at
flow.
least 50 in equity, and that's I guess like earned equity, right? Not like you put 50K in
Yeah.
and then okay.
Yeah, like the one I'm doing right now, Massac Beach. I bought it for 252. Probably put like 20 into it. There's other closing costs. I'm probably only at like 280 and 80
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
But I got it appraised for 360. So that one
Okay.
I have like a decent equity position, in excess of what I my minimum requirements.
Now
Um,
now how'd you get that lead?
that was through SMS.
Hell yeah.
That was through
Okay.
like a mass texting. And
Okay.
yeah, the guy just wanted to get the hell out of there. He wanted to move upstate. He wanted to sell completely as is. Like he had a messy house. Like he didn't have a
Yeah.
wife, right? Like so it's just a messy house. He's got dogs that smell like dogs in there. But it wasn't like
Hmm.
too bad. Like meaning the house was bought. He bought it from a flipper like 3 years ago. So the house
Okay.
was like newly renovated, but he just
Yeah.
let it go or whatever. And he just didn't want, obviously, he wasn't going to list it. He wasn't going
Yeah.
to put that in the market. He just wanted to sell, get an offer, net a certain number, and just kind of get the hell out of there. And,
That's awesome.
I gave him an offer, and he was a nice guy, actually. There's an offer higher than mine. And he was like, you know what? I said yes to you already. So, I'm going to take your deal. I was like,
Oh
oh,
wow.
all
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So you got that,
You gotta,
would you say 272?
252.
252. And where was he at?
Um, when I saw it, I was like my internally I was gonna be like 20 grand less than that.
Yeah.
And there was another investor. He's like, yeah, I got a guy coming Friday. The guy came. I called him Friday. The guy came, gave him an offer 250. So I was like, oh shit, all right. So I got to come up. Like my offer would have
Yeah.
been like 230, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, the deal still makes sense at this number. So I'm like, listen, I talked to the guy. I'm like, I don't want to lose out on the deal, for 1,000 to whatever it is. Like I'll come up an extra two because I was gonna match his 250, and I'm like, I'll
Hmm.
come up 252. That's totally fine. Because I
No.
think he asked for like me to come up, so I was like, fine, no problem. And the guy called him back Monday, and he's like, I'll do 260. So the guy was at 260, but he already told me on Friday that he would take my
He
deal.
accept.
So
Yeah.
he called me up, and we're like, listen, I got an offer at 260, but I already told you yes, so I'm going to go with you, um, which is great.
Yeah.
That was a great thing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, and also,
So,
here's another tip. If you, what I did after I gave him the offer, I wanted to see what the other guy was going to be at. So instead of like going there, giving him an offer and leaving, right? You kind of decrease your chances because if my offer was let's say 230, right? You had a guy coming
yeah.
on Friday and he obviously gave him a 250. I would have lost that deal. But I
Yeah.
always, what I do is I go, hey, listen, I want to have last licks. Like, so I always will go in and say, "Look, I understand you getting other offers. Can we speak after that person comes? And we can kind of see like where he's at. Maybe I can beat it, maybe not, who knows?
Yeah.
But I want to at least try, give it my best shot. And that's what I
Interesting.
did. And I literally gave him a call right after that guy gave him the offer. And, we made a deal happen. And we would not have gotten that deal done if it weren't for that extra effort.
Wow. So that's interesting. Most people think I want to be the first one to put the offer in now. Now you believe that having those last licks is way more valuable.
It depends, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, I agree. Like, so a lot of times, some people will do what I call a cattle call. Like, they'll just call all the investors up, and like they get a million postcards. They call every single one. They say, "All right, be here on Tuesday. Give me an offer," right? And they'll
Yeah.
field like 20 offers. Like I call that a cattle call. So in
Okay.
that situation, yeah, I want to be last because being first isn't going to help you because they're not going to take your offer. They're like 100% will not take your initial offer.
Okay.
because you're first. And they want to hear the other offers. Even if you have a high offer, that's fine, but they're going to listen to the rest of them.
You know
So
they're
what I'll do,
shopping.
yeah, I want to, yeah, exactly. So I want to get back to them last, and then I can see, all right, where are they really at, and where do I need to be? So that's one situation. I've had other situations like the Ron Conkma deal. I was the only person they called, and they weren't gonna shop it. They literally wanted to make
Yeah.
a deal right there, and we made a deal. And in those situations, you want to lock them up as soon as possible. I
Yeah.
gave them an offer, they accepted it. Let's go to contract, like right now. Those deals you do want to be
So
first.
did
So it
you
really
you
depends.
sign that Ron Cockman deal on site? Like you were
No, it
negotiating
was
back and forth?
no. I went on the appointment. Their asking price, I told you, was like very high, right? When I was on the phone with them, like
Hmm.
in that first phone call, and I was like, all right, let me just go on the appointment. I go there. I'm like, listen, I'm in this range, like around
Hmm.
200, and they immediately huddled up in the corner, right? And they were like, all right. They came back to me. All right, can you do 225? Right. So they go all the way from 350, down to 225. So I'm like, okay, this is a deal. So I wanted to like go and talk to my contractor first. I
Yeah.
told them I'd call them later that night, um, put in the offer, and they accepted it that night. So we went to contract like a few days later.
So you didn't so that 200, um you still wanted to verify a couple of things with your contractor and make sure that you weren't crazy there?
Yeah, because at the time, I didn't know I can get what I sold it for because the market
Okay.
was crazy. Like
Yeah.
I was looking at the past 6 months from 2022, and I was looking at comps in like the 425, 435
Yeah,
range,
430,
right?
yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is where the comps are. Let me deduct a little bit because how close it was to the LIE. I thought that might
Yeah.
knock me down to 400. So I'm running my numbers thinking I'd sell it at 400.
Hmm.
And I'm factoring in, you know, whatever it was, like 85 in work, and it was way more, right? So I was being a little conservative with some of the numbers, like worst case scenario wise, and that's
Yeah.
kind of where I was coming in at because the house needed a ton of work, so I
Yeah.
had to like factor that into my initial analysis. Um,
Now, this was your first flip, right?
yeah.
Okay. And now, did you fully feel comfortable with that flip? Was it just that great of a deal, or were you nervous? Did you doubt yourself at all? Talk to me.
Um, Not really. I mean, I kind of knew the deal was a good one, and I could have
Yeah.
wholesaled it for like I could have made like 50 to 70 on wholesale,
Yeah.
easily. So
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, I could always get out of this if I needed to.
Yeah.
So I felt comfortable. I've used so the contractor I was going to use,
Yeah.
I've used around my house is very good, but I found out he wasn't licensed. And
Yeah.
my like right before closing, my insurance guy like blew me up. He's like, dude, you cannot use this guy. He's like, he
Okay.
told me like all these stories. I'm like, oh fuck, you're right. So I had to make a phone call. I called this other contractor who I've known for a couple years, but I just put him in the back of my mind like I can't use him because I've tried to use him in the past and he was just so busy because he
Yeah.
works for another flipper who's like a big time flipper on Long Island, and
Yeah.
he keeps him so busy that I could never really get him.
Yeah.
But I gave him a call. I'm like, dude, he's the only licensed guy I know. I caught him at a really good time, and the rest is history. Now me and him are talking like almost every day.
It's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So you kind of just knew you had a really good deal here. So you were able to take it on, right? There's so much equity
Yeah.
there. Um, Now, so do you think, because I'm sure that wasn't the first flip you analyzed, how many flips do you think you analyzed before you got that first one? I guess is the proper question.
Oh, I don't even know. I mean, I'm not always actively looking for flips either, but
Yeah,
I'm trying to find mainly rentals. So I'm in a different
yeah,
market, right? Looking that deal just came to me. But there's always, I'm always seeing people are sending me deals all the time,
yeah,
and I'm always analyzing whether it's a flip or a rental. analyzed thousands of properties, and
Right.
I put in offers on hundreds, I would say, and never you put in the offer, because that's the only way you get the deal, but you're not going to get a lot of them. You're not going to get a
Yeah.
lot of deals because unless you're getting them off the market or whatever. But most of the time, when I first started, I was putting them on MLS deals, and just the way the market was, you're never going to get a deal that way.
Yeah. So you analyzed tons of deals at that point, so you knew this was like a no-brainer. You were able to rationalize it and
Yeah, but
say my
I have
risk was
like,
controlled.
but I have a spreadsheet that I created, and
Hmm.
you only need when you're flipping, you really just need like two or three pieces of data that you really have to know down to know if you're gonna make money. So you need to know what the ARV is, like what this thing could sell for, right?
Yeah.
And you want to be accurate because you don't want to be too low because then you'll lose out on deals, but you don't want to be too high because then you'll lose money. So
Yeah.
you'd rather be a little conservative, I guess. Um, but this is a market too that's appreciating. So it's like, how conservative do you really want to be? The market's going up. So you really got to
Yeah.
play, like, you really got to be smart with where the value is in this home.
Yeah.
So you need a good like agent too that can help you. Like I'll run deals myself, but I'm not experienced as like one of the agents I work with. He's got a decade of experience, right?
Yeah.
So you got to know the ARV, and then you got to know the construction, the rehab costs.
Hmm.
So that's something you learn, I guess, is like hiring. When I first started out, I hired inspectors, right? I hired Mike from our group to
Yeah.
do all my inspections. When I was close to getting a deal, I'd hire him. He'd point things out to me and be like, it needs this, it needs that, it needs this. But at the same time, I was like analyzing what he's looking at, so I can, when I go look at properties, what to look at, because I didn't have a construction experience
Yeah.
background. So that's how I learned a little bit on how to like what to look for, and then getting the construction costs down. That you got to really just talk to your contractor, and maybe if you
Yeah.
do enough deals, you can just be like, yeah, this is like a $80,000 house. This is like 120. Like you just know when you have
Yeah.
enough experience. I'm not there yet. I mean, I kind of like understand, but sometimes I pad deals. Like I was looking at a deal in Wading River. I'm still looking at it.
Yeah.
It needs a lot, and I thought it'd be 140 for a reno, and I was
Jeez.
talking to my contractor, and he's like, that's probably like a buck 20,
Okay.
So 20 grand now I can come up 20 grand in my
Yeah.
offer because I missed it, my
I mean,
initial analysis.
20K on the conservative side though is not a bad, not
That,
bad.
but that's the thing. I'm always
Yeah.
conservative. So when I run deals, I'll miss out on deals. I'll have low offers. Like I want to be pretty razor. You want to be pretty razor sharp with those two things I just talked about.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna miss out on deals. And you don't want to be
ARV
counting
and the
ARV,
rehab.
construction costs. And the only other thing that really factors in a little bit is like the time that you hold it.
Hmm.
So if it's like a 6 month deal versus like a 9 month deal, there's going to
Hmm.
be that could swing your deal like depending on financing, could swing the deal like 15, 20 grand, based on the interest, things of that nature. So it's really the two big ones are construction costs and ARV.
Now, how did you finance this split? And how do you plan on financing your future flips?
Yeah, so this flip I financed through a home equity,
Okay.
and also some private, from friends and family like lent me some money. But most of it was through the home equity, which saved me some money, man, because I was actually going to raise money to buy this deal,
Hmm.
and I was getting terms of like 12 and 2 and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Like I was going to do it. I was like ready to pull the trigger because I knew the deal made sense, but then I'm like, I could save like 15 grand if I just put this, probably more actually, because they were charging like minimum 6 months of interest, and I sold
Yeah.
it in three. So it would
Okay.
have cost me like 20 grand or 15 grand um, to
Now,
not use my own funds. So I was like, well, let's just
okay.
use my own, like, just save the money. You know what I
So
mean? But going forward, I don't think I'm going to do that.
For those who don't know, I mean, 12 and 2, what he's referring to is 12% simple interest on what, a year term, Mike?
It was 12% interest, paid every month,
Yeah.
um, and 2 points, right? So for every $100,000, I was getting $98,000, but I still owed 100.
Yeah.
So they short you that way. I hate it. I don't think I want to do points ever, but
Yeah.
and that because then it makes their interest that they made more than 12%. They make like 14 in that situation when
Yeah,
you do the
because
math
the principal is
because they're
actually
not giving
less.
you
And
what
yeah.
you. Yeah, it's bullshit. It's like why it's so stupid. Like I need the money. You're shorting me the money. Like
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like it doesn't make sense to me. It never will make sense to me. So it's like points don't make sense. So anyway, and then it
Yeah.
was a minimum 6 months, so I had to pay every month for 6 months. If I sold it in three, which I did, I still owed him
Mhm.
6 months of
Yeah.
interest. So, I mean, but that's generally the terms though. Like most guys are not going to lend you the money for less than like 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
They're just not. It doesn't make sense for them, and I understand that portion. But the points don't make sense to me. Now I get it. I mean, I do. It's not that they don't make sense to me. They do make sense, but I
Yeah.
don't want to ever have to pay them.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Usually, rather than, I mean, it's basically the same thing, but rather than paying points, I'm just covering their attorney costs. Um, because
Yeah,
most people
yeah,
most people get pissed when they have to come
yeah,
out of pocket to give someone money, you know?
yeah. No,
Uh,
and that's standard. You got to pay the
yeah.
attorney up. But I had one on my Massac Beach deal. Um, the lender is paying out. I had good terms. I really did.
Hmm.
The rate was high, but it was no prepayment, so it was like a great. Like that's what I really
Awesome.
liked about it. But he got a referral to some attorney, and the attorney was a to say this lightly, was a jackass.
Okay.
He charged me so much. He charged me more than double than you
Yeah.
would get charged. Like most guys are like 1,500
Yeah,
to maybe
15.
two
Yeah.
grand, maybe 2 grand. He charged me four.
Yeah.
Like he didn't
For
do anything. He,
for
he drafted. Yeah, just ridiculous. He killed me. But I had no other option. Um, and honestly, it was like all they do is they draft a mortgage and a note, and it's like a template. Like you're just
yeah.
filling in names. Like you didn't do anything special. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like you don't deserve this. You don't deserve this.
Yeah.
It was
That's
bad.
funny. So, did you complain to the lender at all? Did you tell him like,
No,
hey,
no,
like,
because of the relationship. I mean, actually, kind of, he knew about it, and he's just kind of like, yeah, this guy. It is what it is. I mean,
yeah,
because again, I'm not going to tell him choose another. It was like this is the deal, take it or
yeah,
leave it. And that's the position that the attorney made. He was like, and I asked him, like, dude, you're charging way too much. This is like crazy.
yeah,
Can you please, charge me a reasonable number? And he's like, no. It's like, fuck
yeah.
you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I mean, like, so I've had this conversation with people in the past, um, where what I'll do is I'll take the money that one time, because like you were saying, it's like take it or leave it kind of thing. You needed the funds, but once you pay them back, uh, then I go to them and say, "Hey, would you want to do this again?" And they say, "Hell yeah, of course I want to do it again." Okay, well, do you mind if we use a different attorney?
Yeah.
For
Oh, he
sure.
will,
That,
and he will.
yeah,
This guy, he wasn't happy with him either. I mean,
yeah.
this was just like
Okay,
a
good.
referral thing. He used him the one time. He didn't necessarily, he wasn't responding, like he wasn't great, to say the least.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be using him ever again, I don't think. So if we ever do business again, it's going to be with someone else as the attorney.
Now, Mike, what do you say to someone who's like, oh, I want to get into real estate, but I don't have the money?
Dude, I don't have the money. I mean, no one has the money.
Yeah,
No one who starts
but
has the
I
money.
mean, not that you don't have the money, but like, how do they even get those relationships to have someone lend them, a couple 100,000 or whatever it was?
It's the thing is, it's not the money, right? It's like, go find the deal.
Yeah,
That's the real truth. If you have a good deal, you'll find money. You'd either
yeah,
partner up with someone, You could either shit, you can wholesale deals and make money and just
Yeah.
like there's your money for the next deal, right? You kind of do that a few times to kind of gather up some funds. Or you find deals and you go to hard money lenders, or you go to investors that you want to joint venture with. You go to
Yeah.
friends, you go to family, you go to people in your network, and you explain to them like, I got a really good deal here. We're gonna make some money.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this
Yeah.
thing. And people that have the means will, if they support you and they see that it's a good deal and they're gonna be safe, they'll probably invest with you if they have the funds.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you don't, then try to joint venture with someone in a RIA, like someone that you've known, not just some stranger. Um, so it's not about the money. I really believe this. A lot of people struggle. A lot of people struggle with the money. They think I need money to buy real estate, and it's like, you don't. I've
Yeah.
done this. I've done this business. I've laid out money for like my own stuff, like my own marketing and things that's like out of my pocket, sure.
Yeah.
But like as far as the deals, like I've done all my deals with no money into the deal.
Yeah.
And people, I guess you would say, oh, the home equity. I mean, yeah, I'm luckily I have equity in my home I was able to borrow against. But you could have taken that away from me and I would have found a lender. I would have. I
Yeah.
just would have.
Yeah.
So
And,
it's the same thing.
that's the
Oh, and then
the
other people do, and this is what I'm going to do going forward. I
yeah.
might do hard money for some of my flips, and then you can raise private capital for the gap, right? So
Yeah.
you got to put down 10 or 20% on your hard money. The hard money finances the rest. They finance your rehab. But that gap funding, this 60 to 100,000 that you need,
Mhm.
you can raise that money.
Yeah. And use that for your down payment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways to do it, man. You can be creative as
Yeah.
hell with this.
So basically, for those who don't know Mike, what Mike's talking about is basically, um, there's businesses who do this full time, right? This is how they make their money. So when you do find that deal, you're in a position of power, and you can say, all right, I have this great deal. Now, who wants to earn X amount on their money on this safe real estate investment? And there's institutions, that's what they do. So what I did on a previous deal, and I'm getting ready to sell it. I'm under contract to sell it now as a turnkey flip. Basically, I got 80% financing, and I got a down payment, 80% financing from an institution, and then
Yeah.
20% I used, I got as a loan from just people I knew, right?
Yeah.
And those are, I had so it was a 30-year product. It's not like I was just using hard money. It was a 30-year product, but it was Mike, it was
Right.
RCN. So
Yeah.
RCN will lend on these all day. They don't, for people who don't know RCN doesn't really give a shit about your personal debt to income ratio. They want to know you don't owe people on your credit score. And they want to know that the property will cover itself.
Yeah. If you have a
So
heartbeat, they'll lend you the money, and maybe not if you're like a pedophile, but like they'll give you
yeah,
money pretty much.
dude, I'm sure they'll lend to pedophiles as long as they pay the fucking fees. It's fucking A. Yeah. So of course they screw you with fees. Um,
Yeah.
and this is their business, so they're going to do that. But it beats having to put up all that money yourself when you can get creative and do things like that. So that's a great strategy. I've done that. I'm going to continue doing that, where I'll raise some money from an institution if needed, and I'll bring the down payment from more private money. And that what that's called a stacking, capital stack,
Yeah.
for the people who don't know. So, Mike, yeah, the deal is everything, right? That's your how you would respond to that.
Yeah. Like it is 100% everything. Like I'm trying to build a
Yeah,
direct to seller, marketing machine.
yeah,
Because I've realized just how valuable the deal is, you know?
hmm
And I've also realized when I started, the market that I was in, all the deals, most of the deals that came to me through wholesalers, that came to me from even agents that were bringing me off market stuff. Not all of them, like I said, I got my first rental off market from an agent, but
Hmm.
they all were overpriced. I mean, they would come to me
Yeah.
at these crazy numbers, and they were not even. I was nowhere close. My offer was
Yeah.
nowhere close. Maybe because the market was so hot. Maybe just that's just the market was going like this, with COVID. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I was like, I can't do this. I'm never gonna get a deal just getting these horrible deals from wholesalers, and
Yeah.
so I was like, all right, this can't. And you can't control where it is. You got a deal. Like I just got a deal this weekend in Greenport. I don't want to buy properties in Greenport. I get a property in Northport, then I get one in Elmont. It's like I want to buy out here. So it's like you can't
Yeah.
control it. So I'm not a big fan. I shouldn't say I'm not a big fan. I want to get to that level where I think when the market changes, it'll shift where
Yeah.
maybe the power comes back to like the investor, right? But anyway, I decided I got to start making deals work myself. Like I have to fish for them on my own because I can't rely on other people to bring me
Yeah.
deals. So
And
that's what I'm
and
trying to do now is build out the direct to seller side of the business.
yeah. And Mike, I can't stand it when I hear people and they say, there's some people in the group or whoever who, um, I'm looking to buy in XYZ area, and does anyone have a off-market opportunity for me? And like everyone's all looking for off-market opportunity.
No,
Everyone's
it's
all
like,
looking
yeah,
for the
I'm glad you asked because I got them just like in my pocket, just waiting for you. Like, no, I get the opposite. I get the opposite because I rank on Google for my website. So I
Yeah,
get these wholesalers who are they're not wholesalers. They're just people that watched like a wholesaling video on YouTube,
yeah.
and it's like the same script I hear every week. They're like, I have access to off-market properties at a discount. Would you be interested? And I'm like, no, no,
Building
take me off your
building their
list.
cash buyer list.
And I'm like a dick to them, and not really, but I'm like, what do you mean you have access? Like I'll ask questions like, what do you mean you have access? Like, do you have a deal right now? Okay, let's talk about it. And a lot of times they're like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm like, so you don't have anything. You're trying to reverse wholesale. So a lot of these guys that watch like these videos on YouTube and they're like, oh, it's the greatest thing. It's called reverse wholesaling. You find buyers and then you go out and find these buyers exactly what they're looking for and you just
Yeah,
try to get it for a little cheaper and then you make a difference. And it's like, it sounds like it's the greatest thing in the world.
yeah,
But it's nonsense, dude. At least on
yeah,
Long Island, it is nonsense. You can't
yeah,
be, even the best flipper on Long Island can't tell you exactly what he's looking for. He's
yeah,
just gonna be like, dude, bring me something that's like cheap. It's worth, more than what I'm buying it for, and I'll
yeah,
make money on it. And you'll make money on it. Like that's the reality.
yeah,
But it's just crazy.
yeah. And I've heard that a lot. Like I talk with Larry often, and they rank, and he gets calls from people all the
Oh,
time, like,
all the
and
time, dude.
super inexperienced, and
Yep.
they
I had a
want to.
15-year-old. I had a 15-year-old call me last week. I'm not shitting you. I am not shitting you. He's like, so I got a deal, but I'm 15. Should I have my dad buy it and put it? I'm like, should the contract go in my dad's name? I'm like, dude, you're 15. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
not an attorney. Speak to a fucking attorney. I'm not going to advise you what to do.
hey,
15
that's
years old.
pretty awesome, though. That's pretty awesome. Good for him, honestly.
Good
Maybe
for
he should be
him.
the
Yeah.
next guest.
Yeah, it's
Fucking
crazy, man.
15, man. I wish I knew about real estate. That's my favorite meme. It's like my biggest mistake was being in third grade in 2008. I should have been buying real estate. Like
Oh, get it. Dude, speaking of when I first started, or I should say when I wanted to first start, it was like
yeah.
2012. That was the
Oh,
bottom
yeah.
of real estate. And I wanted to
Yeah.
get into real estate only if I like went to the local RIA, started actually doing I mean, listen, we could all like say the same story, I'm sure, but like
Yeah.
I did want to start back then and I could have bought anything. I was gonna buy
Yeah.
the house next to my parents. It was a two family in Bayville and they were asking like I think they were asking 400 even. At the time, I was like, no, it's like worth 330 or something. And that thing can sell for like 900,000 right now, you know?
Yeah,
It's just crazy. Like I was just very foolish, naive. I should have just taken action and gotten into it sooner.
yeah. And that's one thing I've been a little bit more aware of is like even if it looks like not the juiciest deal right now, um, and if the numbers work, they still look strong. Um, I'll probably be willing to take it on because there were way too many deals when interest rates were 2.5, 3% that I was passing up on that I totally should have been. And all those houses basically doubled in value, and
Mm.
I'm the asshole that wasn't buying enough. You know,
Yeah,
um,
the rents they typically go up. Now, I don't know if they will in the short term with inflation,
yeah,
who knows what's going on with that, but they typically go up. And I mean, you can look at any deal, man. Like I remember looking at a deal when I literally first started. It was
yeah,
for 177,000 in Mastic. And I was like, "Oh, should I buy it?" And this was like retail back then. This is before the
yeah,
pandemic. That this is like a retail deal. I'm like, "Oh, should I? It's pretty cool. Maybe I can make some money." That would have been a home run looking back at it, knowing
yeah,
where the market's gone. Like that's you can't get anything for under 200,000, and that was
yeah,
what
yeah. And
retail deals were.
that's hilarious. That was retail.
Retail was a buck 70 back then. That's
Back
crazy.
before you were doing, direct to seller. Imagine, yeah,
2019. This was
yeah,
2019. I think it was like April of 2019. I was looking at deals like
yeah,
when I first kind of started, just checking out the MLS. I found a deal from a wholesaler. But it was on the MLS, and they were like
yeah,
ready to sell to me at like a buck 77, and it didn't need a lot of work either. It needed like some siding had to get fixed or
yeah,
whatever. It wasn't that bad, and I just was like, and it was actually now in the better part of Mastic that's probably worth 400,000 plus. Like that was
yeah,
the one area like you can't find deals there anymore. Like it's part of
yeah.
Mastic that's expensive, like 450, for like a shitty
Mhm.
ranch. So yeah, the market is generally going up. But
Now
and then you hear
to that
people, oh,
point,
when's the crash going to happen? It's like, come on, dude.
and those are the people those are the people who have said, crash, 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 and I'm waiting to buy till the crash happens. Yeah, okay, buddy, just stay on the sideline. I'll
Yeah,
pick up all the properties. Yeah,
yeah. It's like it's stupid because it's like you are waiting for a crash to get a deal. Like that means so many flaws wrong with that. One, the reality is you're just like procrastinating. You're just not. You don't have the balls to jump in. Like that's the
yeah,
truth. Just do it
yeah,
and jump in. Don't wait for a freaking deal. But two, it's like you're buying it. That's assuming you're buying it at retail, right? Like if it goes
yeah,
down, like I have a deal. All my deals, I'm buying it at discounts, and
yeah,
even if the market goes down, I'm still in the green. Like I'm good.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, because it's so deal
forget about the cash
specific. It's
flow.
like,
Yeah, forget about the cash flow that they all can manage and hold themselves. It's like my equity position is pretty good. So if the market goes down, um, shit, even 10%, which is a lot in real estate.
yeah,
I'm still in the black, like meaning it's not I'm not underwater at all, or even
yeah.
close at that point.
And the beautiful part is like, when you're doing, your specific strategy, like Section 8, your rents will continue to get paid. You're on a
Yep.
30-year debt product. Your debt doesn't change. Your
Yeah,
mortgage payment's not moving substantially. Um, it's like, what are we even talking
that's
about
what's
here?
great about Section 8 is that your positive cash flow, your debt is generally going to stay the same. Maybe a little tweaks because of insurance and interest,
Yeah,
but
taxes.
your rent should be going up.
Yeah,
So you should be getting more and more money every year, and then also the value should be going up, right? So
yeah,
your debt will be going down as your value goes up. So your net worth can get bigger every single year or month, really every month, in
yeah,
theory. So I mean, yeah, there's so many ways to make money, and because of the one I just mentioned, and also the cash flow, the depreciation benefits. I mean, there's
yeah.
so many ways to make money in real estate. It's great.
Now, Mike, to your point, I know you got to get out of here soon, so we'll finish up soon. But
Just got started.
to what you were talking about before, where it's like real estate tends to go up, right? Maybe in the short term, it might take a hit, right? Say there's 6 months, a year where it takes a hit. Um, but in the long term, it tends to go up. Now, when we're talking about those properties that you could have purchased in 2012, wh- or whenever realistically, looking back, does it make sense to hold these things? And, does appreciation tend to beat out flipping? Is flipping just short term, taking a
Nah.
short term like gain and you're sacrificing even better gains down the road?
Um, well, I want to do both, and every deal's different, so you can't just like choose to rent some
Yeah,
deals. Like some deals are
yeah,
just flips, you know,
yeah.
it's just the way they are. The taxes are too high. In Long Island, generally, it's like that's
Yeah,
how
but
it
if
is.
we factor that out, right? Like I'm in a market like Binghamton, most when I am flipping something, it's gonna be still be a it could still be a rental. My next buyer is probably
Yeah.
buying it as a rental. And the cash flow is there. And now you actually were thinking I shouldn't have sold the property I have that I'm already selling, because it is cash flowing well. Now, is that if you have the option to do rental or flip it, do you lean towards the rental side? Because when you look at like a 10-year span, that appreciation will tend to be, way higher than that flip.
Yeah, I would generally lean towards keeping it as a rental, even though you won't
Okay.
make money, a lot of money up front. Whereas a
Yeah.
flip, you kind of, you're walking away with some cash. Um, so for me though, it's like I'm going to do both. I'm going to, because I think there's value in having a very high paying job, right? In
Hmm.
flipping. Like I'm a CPA, I'm making good money now, but flipping 20 houses a year, I can make 10 times that,
Yeah.
or 5 times that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot more money, probably with less effort too, to be honest with you. But having that high-paying job is very important because then that can sort of subsidize my rentals, right? Like I can use all that money and plow it into rental properties, and
Hmm.
like even buy properties. Like I probably passed on deals because they didn't make sense the way I was financing them. But maybe if I was just buying them with cash and then
Hmm.
refining them out 6 months later and pulling out my cash, my money, maybe I would have bought some deals at a little higher price point. So
Yeah.
I guess it's like it's valuable to have that flipping money to sort of subsidize your rentals, and then you could just really stack your rentals at that point. And that's kind of where
Yeah.
I'm trying to lean towards, is
Okay.
that. But I think if it's one versus the other, I mean you can't go wrong with the rental because you got to think long term. You can't think year one. Yeah, you made
Yeah.
40, 50 grand year one, but it's gone. That's it. It's
Yeah.
over. Rentals pay you forever.
Yeah. That's something I think I'm gonna start paying more attention to, is not just comparing it to what that year one looks like. Let's look a little further down the road, at 10, 15 years down the road. What is that house going to be worth compared to what did I make on that flip? Um,
If you have the
and
means to keep them as a rental, I'd keep them as a rental. Sometimes, like, listen, maybe you need some money. You got big overhead. You got your office rent. You got your marketing cost. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe you have a big overhead, and you have to
yeah,
start flipping to
yeah,
subsidize that.
yeah, interesting. Um, so Mike, I wanted to move on and ask you just what's so what was one of your biggest successes in business so far? Share that with us and break that down for me.
Like
A
any deal
deal,
I've done.
yeah, a deal. Like I mean, I'd say a good starting point would be that document deal, right? Like your first flip.
Yeah.
or your
Yeah, I
one of
guess
your
the first.
rentals if you want to break that down for us, whatever makes you feel more comfortable.
It's a tough one, man. I mean, I've had some success. Definitely that first deal was, yeah, I would say the first deal, even though it was a good deal, I'd still do the same deal today. It
Yeah.
probably, uh, shit, I don't think you can buy properties that cheap anymore. I got it for like
Yeah, so break it
228.
down.
Yeah, I got it for 228, and I feel like you can't get anything anymore for that over there. It's crazy. There's a rental in
Well,
Bellport. Needed about I put like 45 into it. Got refied 5% interest. The
wow.
taxes are like 4,300.
Yeah.
At this point, we just raised it. We raised it from 2,700 to 3,000. I'm making like 1,200 bucks a month right now.
Yeah.
Obviously there's some repairs and stuff like that. Some months there's nothing.
Yeah.
So there's like it's a good deal, like a great deal. But that was my first deal, so I would
Yeah.
say that was probably my biggest success because I wanted to do real estate for 2021. I bought that in 22. So for 2 years, I just tried to get deals and I couldn't. I
Yeah.
put in offers, I get rejected. It was a hot market. It was competitive as hell. Um, I was still in the early stages. It took me 2 years. So I got that deal. She told me the number. I'm like, let's do it. Let's see the
Yeah.
house first, but let's do the deal. I knew the numbers were pretty strong. And that was probably my most successful one because that was like, listen, I got over that hurdle. And that hurdle
Yeah.
is your first deal. And that is the hardest deal.
Yeah.
Everything else since then has been a lot of hard work as well. But, I have experience. Things are a little easier when I take down a deal. I kind of know the process. I know I've been through a contract. I've been through that stage, the title, the
Yeah.
insurance, the mortgage, the underwriting. I've been through all that multiple
Yeah.
times now. So it helped. My processes are kind of getting there. They're down, but I know what to expect. There's
Yeah.
nothing like surprising me, and you kind of like see how expensive things are too.
Yeah.
Right. So people always, when they're analyzing deals, they miss costs. They're just like, oh, yeah, it costs you 40 to do this and that. And you realize, like, when the reality comes down to it, like, things are way more expensive than you think.
Yeah.
Just to get things done are very expensive, at least on Long Island. So, I think that first deal was the biggest one, that big hurdle to get over for me.
Yeah. Just
Um,
mindset wise, that was big for you, you think?
yeah. And I got it through a realtor.
Okay.
So I realized the power in, you know, having relationships with people. You know,
Mhm.
people want to work with people they like, they know, and they trust. And my cost for that deal was zero. Like that's the
Yeah.
best. You have someone in your
Yeah.
network who just hands you a deal and says, "Here you go." You didn't have to work your ass off for that. Besides, the relationship,
Yeah.
they could take time to develop. Um, but yeah, that's really like I didn't have to, invest into all kinds of marketing to get that deal. It just kind
Yeah.
of came to me.
Now, so that was, one of your biggest successes, but have you had any big failures or any mistakes since starting that you regret, that you wish you would have done differently or something? Maybe you lost a deal or talk to me.
Yeah, I've lost deals. I've lost deals. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the ones I regretted, yeah, I would say this is my biggest failure. So I went under contract. I probably shouldn't even tell people this. Before I got my first deal, I was under contract that summer of 21. So
Okay.
like a year in, not even. And I I thought it was a good deal. It was like a 235. But there was the issues, man. It was on a main road in Massac Beach. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, I thought the values were higher, but you're on a main road, you're near commercial properties.
Yeah.
So not understanding the value there. So I didn't have as much equity as I had originally thought. And I still probably would have, if it was vacant, I still probably would have taken the deal down. But the property was occupied with a non-paying tenant, right? And this was in
Yeah.
the middle of that whole like you can't evict people nonsense.
Eviction
You look at it,
moratorium.
dude, we look back at that like that was a thing. That was crazy. We can never evict someone, and it dragged on. Like it was okay, all right. 2020, I get it because it was like we don't want to see homelessness in like this
Yeah.
time where no one knows what's going on. But they just kept going with it. It was so
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I would have had to close on this thing in like August of 21, and
Yeah.
then right when I was ready to close, they pushed off the eviction moratorium was supposed to expire in August, and they pushed it back. And I'm like, this is nonsense. They're going to keep pushing it
Wow.
back forever. Yeah, that's when I was like
Wow.
really scared. I was scared. I'm like, I'm going to buy a property. I'm not going to have rent coming in, but I have to pay every month. Um, and
So,
this was
Mike,
not a good
you were
position
going
to
to
be in.
close in August with a non-paying tenant, and the eviction moratorium was supposed to end. However, they extended it.
Yes, I was supposed to. No, I had until like November to close, like technically
Okay.
in the contract, but
Okay.
in August, I was buying it with a mortgage. I luckily, even though I had the funds to buy cash, I luckily was like, let's buy this with a mortgage, and
Yeah.
that gave me a an escape clause, right?
Financing out. Yeah.
A financing way of getting out of the deal,
Yeah.
and I got out of the deal. And honestly, I'm not too proud about it because honestly, like the person brought me the deal off market. Guess what? She doesn't send me deals anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's that you lose credibility if you can't close. So
Yeah.
don't say something like you're going to close and then you can't. So I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely look like an idiot in that situation. That is not me though. That is not what I'm all about. I've only
Yeah.
done it once because, like I said, I was buying with a non-performing tenant who I couldn't evict. And
Yeah.
do you want your first deal to be, oh hey honey, we just bought this great rental in the middle of nowhere, and oh guess what? I have to pay $2,000 a month. Not that I'm getting paid. I'm paying two
Yeah.
thousand a month, and I got to pay an attorney to evict. It's like, dude, do you really want to go down that road?
Yeah.
It was a bad decision. I shouldn't even have gone into contract. I mean, she was kind of like playing, kind of on her too. 'Cause she was like, "Oh, she's nice. She's a nice tenant. She's just, whatever." She stopped paying because the
Yeah.
landlord was being a jerk, and I kind of bought in, like, "Oh, okay, maybe she'll pay me." And I'm like thinking, like, she's not
Yeah.
gonna pay you. She ain't
Yeah.
paying you shit, man. Like, it's just, that was a
Yeah.
bad
The
decision.
government says she doesn't even have to pay. So,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, dude, it was crazy. It was a bad position to be in. She was nice. I met her, and she was very nice to my face,
yeah.
but she wasn't playing ball. I was like trying to get her to pay, and she wasn't really cooperative. So good thing I didn't take down that deal. So I just got
Yeah.
out of it like the right before that clause was up. I just pulled
Yeah.
out like that Friday.
You like, it may have not been the best thing for the relationship, but hey, at least you
Yeah,
didn't have to take on a bad deal just to do it. Like, God forbid you did have to do that. And, they sued you for specific performance or something that could have been way worse. Um, at least you had some outs there, which is, I always
yeah,
like to, I don't so in terms of contingencies, usually what I use is due diligence period. Just to have like a study period. I'll keep it at that. At this point, I sometimes I'll do financing, not typically. Um, but hey man, at least you were smart enough to know, put some contingencies in there.
yeah, yeah. I'm glad I didn't take that deal down. It would have been nice to have another rental, but
Yeah,
I was actually trying to wholesale it, and I was speaking to this
yeah,
this other investor, and it made sense what he was saying. He's like, you want to get like a rentals, like all my rentals, they're on like nice blocks, out in the
yeah,
area that we're buying in, right? He's like, they're on nice blocks. This house was on like a double yellow. Like even
yeah,
renters, they don't want to like pull in living on a main road like that. They
yeah,
don't want. There's going to be issues. There's going to be turnover. It's like not a great thing. Like they park their cars and literally when they back out every day, they have to worry about traffic. Like no one wants to be on a main road. So like probably not gonna buy many deals on main roads. Just
yeah,
just like a rule of thumb because you really should have, and it's gonna affect your resale value if you ever decide to sell. You should just have properties like not on main roads. But if you do, like maybe get them cheap. If I
Yeah.
would recommend people, like if you're buying them on main road, get them cheap and factor in a lot of vacancy or like turnover because people
Yeah.
aren't going to want to live there.
Yeah. And I think that's big. Yeah. Because you are planning to hold that thing not just for, a quick flip. That's a long-term strategy there. And you're really taking the long-term view. You know, this thing's going to have extra headaches over the years, just
Well,
whatever it
the
is.
the reason why Section 8 is so profitable is because, well, one, you don't have that collection issue, right? The
Yeah.
whole, oh, what if my tenant doesn't pay me? You kind of rule that out with Section 8, but the real reason why it's profitable, more profitable than a cash rental, is because the there's two reasons. The market rents are almost the same as the Section 8 rents, which is great.
Yeah.
But you have these tenants that are staying there on average 10 plus years,
Hmm.
right? You have a cash rental, will a person will stay for an average 2 to 3 years. So you
Yeah.
don't have that constant. So you can turn over three cash rentals on average before you turn
Yeah.
over a Section 8 rental.
Yeah.
And there's always a cost involved with that turnover. Yeah, you might turn it over. It's only vacant for 3 weeks, and then you put it back the next month. But there's always a cost. You got to slap some paint on it. You got to the floors. You got to who knows? There's something. There's always
Yeah.
something. So that's going to eat into your cash flow that you just made for all the 3 years that you just rented it. All that cash
Yeah.
flow is gone, most of it, because you got to redo it. So it's not a great strategy in my view. I like Section 8 because they continue to stay there. It's just a cash machine.
Yeah, as long as it cash flows and it like the numbers aren't bad, like you said, your debt won't really move. Your taxes shouldn't move too crazy. Your insurance really shouldn't move crazy, and those rents will keep going up. So it's like you got your fixed mortgage payment essentially for the next few years, and then you got Section 8 tenants. You got the government paying you. Um,
Yeah, it's great.
Now, yeah, and you don't have to worry about the government doing some sort of eviction moratorium where tenants suddenly just stop paying and they don't have to pay for a year and a half.
That's
So
what I always tell people. Dude, this is like the one thing everyone's like, biggest mistake in my view. People that have the mindset, and I had this when I first started. People in Long Island that go, I'm going to invest out of state because the laws here suck. They are
yeah,
right. That is
yeah,
true. But you gotta like look in it. When you say vague statements, there's details into every little thing, right? The devil's in the
yeah,
details. There's always like you gotta look into it, right? So when you have a Section 8 tenant, you kind of evade a lot of that whole eviction process because a lot of Section 8 tenants do not want to leave. They do not want to lose their voucher. So they always pay their portion. And
hmm,
it, generally, I know there's some bad, Section 8 tenants, but generally they're good and you don't have to evict them as much as you would someone else, right? A cash tenant or
hmm,
whatever. So it's like, all right, if you're not evicting, the government's paying your rent. You don't have to really worry about the small portion that they have to come out of pocket for. You don't have to evict people, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
Generally,
yeah,
there's always situations where you do, right? But so it's like you can't just take that approach like I'll never invest in New York because the evictions suck and I'd rather be in Texas where I get it out in 30 days. It's like okay, I get it. I totally get the
yeah.
argument, but yeah, you shouldn't have to be evicting people. Is kind of what my argument
Yeah,
is. What
there's a
section?
way around that, right? As long as you can find those Section 8 properties that do cash flow well, like you're doing, then of course that's a great strategy. The government's paying you. The government, you know, you pay tons of taxes to the government, might as well get some money back. You know?
And you always hear like the stories like, oh, these Section 8 tenants, I hear bad things. And it's like, generally when I hear those stories, most of the time that I hear those stories, I ask the people, I'm like, did you inherit the tenant? A lot of times they inherit a bad tenant. So then
Hmm.
they have the whole mindset, oh, these kind of tenants suck. And it's not the case. Like if you vet and select a good tenant, you
Yeah,
shouldn't have many problems. And so far, I've vetted, knock on wood, I've vetted good tenants. You talk to
Mhm.
Carl, you talk to these guys that have been doing this for 30 years, 40 years. Carl has like never had problems with any of his tenants, and he's been
Yeah.
renting it to people for how long? Very, very long time.
Yeah. The only time I've had problems or I've seen someone have problems is tends to be like someone with victim mentality. And this is a plague that I see just with friends, family, and even with tenants.
Yeah,
I wish there was a way to screen this, look at some sort of score that shows how entitled this person thinks they are or how much of a victim they believe themselves to
I
be.
hate it.
And that's, I can't put it on an application, but when I talk to you and you're complaining, why you can't make your car payment or why you want to leave your current rental, where your apartment where you're living right now, and it's 100 different reasons why your landlord sucks. Um,
Dude,
I'm
I,
gonna
I,
kind of get
I
the
don't like
gist.
it. It drives me nuts too. Everyone kind of does it. It's like very frustrating when people around you do it. I was watching a video on like Instagram, like
Yeah.
they're making fun of this person, but this person like put out a video, like seriously, and they're complaining that someone gave them grief because she described it as time blindness. Like she was fucking late.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that. Yeah,
Like
she was like
you're
on a
fucking
job interview.
Yeah, like you're fucking late, and you're saying, "Oh well, I struggle with time blindness." It's like, no, what are you talking about, dude? You were late. That's not like you're not in a class of your own. Like you're just late.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
and
you're
that's the
not.
victim mentality, you know.
Yeah,
It's like always a
there's nothing.
something.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with your brain. You weren't born with a
Yeah,
disease.
you have
You
disability.
just
It's not time blindness is not like a symptom. It's not a
yeah
thing. You're just late to shit. Get on time.
yeah. You're just irresponsible. Call a spade a spade.
Right.
um, yeah, and that's kind of what I pick up a lot. I talk to tons of tenants. You know, to be honest, like one thing I've seen is when it comes to Section 8, or I've interviewed people, right? And this is a red flag for me, right? And Carl will probably yell at me. This probably isn't legal. Some sort of fair housing law might go against it or whatever. But when someone comes up to me and they're like, "Oh, do you accept Section 8?" I'm like, and I say, "Yeah. I mean, we don't have the apartment approved right now, but we can definitely get it approved if that's something you would be interested in." And anyway, they pull up in a Mercedes Benz, and they're on welfare and they can't work, but they're driving $100,000 car. For me, that's a red flag. I'm not renting to that
Yeah.
person. I don't care what their application looks like. And typically, their credit looks like shit. Their credit's in the 500s. Their Mercedes Benz car payment's like $1,000 a month, and
It's crazy.
their rent is subsidized by the government. I'm not renting to that person.
Yeah. Some people have their priorities so like ass backwards. It's like, you don't have like 6 months of savings, right? Like you don't
Yeah,
have savings. You're kind of living from whatever, paycheck to paycheck. But you have the newest iPhone. You have, like you said, Mercedes. You got all the bells and whistles. You barely have any clothes to wear. But as long as you have that new iPhone, that's all that matters. It's
yeah,
like people's priorities are just so screwed up. It seems like
yeah,
I don't know. I'm the
yeah,
complete opposite. I can care less about. I mean, yeah, I have an iPhone, but I'm sure it's not the newest one, and I don't drive a nice car. I mean, it's a Jeep. It's not a shitty car, but
yeah.
I'm not driving. I
What
could
kind of
probably
Jeep do you drive?
afford a nicer car, but I'm not going to do that.
What kind of Jeep do you drive?
Grand Cherokee,
All right, all right. I have a Compass.
2019 Compass. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I was never a Jeep guy. I don't know. I was looking for a car, and I was always like, I'll never get a Jeep because everyone has them.
yeah.
And then I don't know. I think I just drove one once. I'm like, this is pretty nice, and I just decided to lease it. And then the leasing rates was so low when COVID hit. The value of my car was worth at the buyout was worth way more than the payoff. So I'm like, let
Hmm.
me just buy this thing out. right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna like ride out that value until it like hits my payoff, and I'm just gonna sell it and probably get a new car. Just
Yeah.
gonna I'm grinding down the value until I can kind of get a free car out of it. Is kind of my thought process.
Yeah. To kind of go back though, you mentioned priorities. People's priorities are ass backwards. That's something I think you probably know better than anyone, considering how limited time you have, right? You have a full-time job, you have a family, and you're also trying to do this real estate thing. Now, how are you prioritizing things when you're not working? How does that look for you? Because I'm sure there was a lot of sacrifices and a lot of things that needed to be cut out. Can you
Oh
talk
yeah.
about that?
Oh, dude, 100%. Like that's the thing you have to do is make some sacrifices when you get in this business because it's
Yeah.
time consuming this business. So, I mean, I could tell you straight up, I don't have a I don't watch TV. I don't sit at my ass every night and watch TV. At one point in my life, I was, sitting down for dinner. After dinner, we watch some TV and just, go to bed. Whatever. Like, I don't have that in my life. I can't tell you the last time I really watched a TV show. I guess what I'll do is I'll watch like my sports team, like NFL. I'll try to watch the games,
Hmm.
right in the fall. Me and my wife have like a show or two maybe we watch every now and then. But aside from
Hmm.
that, that is all the TV I've watched all year, the entire year.
Yeah.
Like I just don't, watch TV, right? So like I've sacrificed that. I'm a
Yeah.
little older now. I don't go out as much, with my friends as often. We're all getting older, but we
Yeah.
get together, every month or every couple of months, something like that. But it wasn't like it's not every weekend I'm going out partying like I was in my 20s or something like that.
Yeah.
So things like that. I've stepped back a little bit, and at night I'm just grinding, working on my business. Right now it's 9 whatever o'clock at night, and we're on a
Yeah.
podcast. Most people
Yeah.
would be watching TV before they go to bed and winding down. That's not me.
Yeah.
I'm in bed at
Yeah.
1 o'clock. I'm working all night. I'm up at a reasonable hour. I'm not one of those 4 a.m. people.
Yeah.
But I'm up at a reasonable hour, and then I start my day, and then I'm just working all day till I go to sleep.
Yeah.
So
Now, what
wake
what
up
gives
at
you
night.
that motor?
Um, I mean, listen, I'm not where I want to be. I know I could be successful in this business. So it's
Mhm.
just a matter of when it happens.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna work my ass off until, I mean, probably forever, right? I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna pull my foot off the pedal,
Yeah.
unless I really want to like tamper down my acquisitions and just manage my portfolio. But yeah, like I have no intention of slowing down. Um,
Yeah.
or maybe if I do this full time, I won't have to work till 1 a.m. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you wake up and you work from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't do that for a very long time, I guess. So I guess when I
Yeah. It's not
go full
sustainable.
time, then I can kind of slow it down. I don't have to work the crazy, you know,
Yeah.
I don't even know how many hours is this every day. I'm working 16, 18 hours every day.
Yeah. Well,
On
realistically,
Sunday.
when you do, you know, transition to being full time, you're going to be able to put more hours into your business, but it's more sustainable. You're going to be able to have a little bit more focus on, let's focus on three things right now. And you drop the W-2, now you're focused on family and you're focused on the
Yeah.
business. So
Yeah. I want to
that's,
have that freedom where I can, work on obviously the business, but have the freedom with the family just to always be available. Someone needs me to pick the kids up middle of the day. Like it's hard for me to do that right now.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we have things figured out a certain way, but I just want to be more available too for that. You
Okay.
know, it,
Yeah.
but yeah, it
So
definitely is
you're,
a lot of work.
so you would say if someone asks you like where do you get, like what's your why? Is that just your desire to be better? You just want to be better? Or where do you really get that drive? When it's late as fuck, you're tired, and you're like, all right, I have some leads. I need to analyze some deals right now. Or whatever. Where do you get energy?
I mean, listen, it's definitely, my kids motivate me. I want to be successful for them too. I want them
Yeah.
to, I thought this, we don't struggle for money now, but I definitely want to have means to do a lot of things. I
Mhm.
never was a big traveler, but I would like to take them places. I would like
Mhm.
to, whatever it is, like just live a nicer lifestyle. So I'll definitely do it for them. That's part of it. And so it's like, how do I have the, motivation to work every night, even on Sundays and Saturdays and weekends and whatever, past midnight? I don't know. There's just so many things to do that I just have to do them, and I don't really
Mhm.
have like administrative people helping me. I mean, dude, there's times I've passed out on my computer desk, like right where I'm sitting, like
Yeah.
just on the computer, and like I'm so exhausted, I've just like fell asleep. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's not healthy, but it's just got to get done, the work. So that's it. I would say maybe probably my kids that motivate me, and just me wanting. I just know this has to work, so I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you're gonna keep chipping it away at it until you can transition.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, Mike. It's been a pleasure. Like I said from the beginning, we could talk for hours. But we have about an hour and a half here. We could cut it. Um, any final thoughts before we get off here? If to leave something with the listener, they want to get uh, they want to get into the business, they want to get started, but they haven't been able to make that first step. You said it yourself, that first property was your hardest. Um, Help them get there. How do they get there?
Uh, it's. I mean, this business is like, I don't know. Let's throw a percentage on it. 50%, maybe 75% being like prepared, right? Doing the educational stuff, doing the YouTube videos, reading the books, doing the coaching. Like a lot of that, maybe, I don't know, 50% of that is that. The other 50% is just having the balls to get in there and to take action, you know,
Yeah.
to get that deal and say, yeah, let's do it. Let's move
Yeah.
forward. Enough analyzing deals and enough like pretending to be a real estate investor. Now it's time to actually do it. When someone brings you that deal, there's no better way to ruin your credibility than when someone gives you everything that you're asking for and you can't or don't choose to execute. It's like, what are we working with this guy for? So you really just got to jump into the game at some point and make a deal. Now, don't make a bad decision. Don't just go into a deal because I said to, but
Yeah.
be prepared. Definitely get the preparation. But I know people that just they're getting preparation for what I was doing. I was
Yeah.
spending years getting preparation, preparing for this, and oh, I'm gonna do it one day, and right.
Yeah.
But I know plenty of guys that are like that. They're just not there yet. But something will
Yeah.
click inside of them one day, maybe, and or not. Some people might not never. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just gotta like at some point, gotta get some balls and jump in the game and start taking action.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. We're gonna end it on that. You heard it here, folks. Mike Placter says you just gotta get the balls and get the
That'll be the
balls to do the
title.
deal.
That's the title of the show. Get some balls.
Get some balls, people, and just take action, essentially. Mike, I would even argue like it's more 80% getting, just having the courage to do that first step, and then 20% the actual education piece.
Probably,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It's probably more. You're
I love
probably
it,
right.
Mike. I appreciate it. Let's let's get out of here. We'll talk soon. And Mike, you want to share your Instagram so or wherever people can reach you out if you want to share whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Instagram is that flippin' accountant. So that flippin' underscore accountant. And you can hit me up there, DM me, follow me, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, Also, my cell phone, 516-662-6132. Um, but wherever, probably you could DM me. It's probably a little easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever you want to do, you can reach out. Any questions? I'm always available.
Yeah, Mike, that's your personal cell. I hope that's like a Google business number.
No, it's myself. No one's gonna watch this. So you get 10 people that watch this and maybe one calls.
Yeah, yeah. When you get a random call from someone. Awesome, Mike. I appreciate it. My Instagram for if anyone's interested is at Joe dot Leun. Um, and yeah, you could DM me there. Pretty easy, pretty simple. I'll definitely respond. Um, don't be afraid to hit either of us up if you're interested in getting started in real estate. We'd be more than happy to give you a lending hand. Um, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, and we'll
Thanks,
talk
man.
soon. All right.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, take care, man.
All right. I'll see you.
All right, bye.